Hey everybody, here's a quick tutorial for Photoshop CS6 beginners that will teach you how to open a file and also how to save your files. As you can see, I don't have anything open right now, so to get something open that I know already exists, rather than creating a new file, I'm going to hit open or hit Control O or Command O on a Mac, and then what you're going to do is search in the different locations on your computer for where that file might be. I found this file called focal point. You select the file and go ahead and hit open, and that's pretty much it. So a real easy way to open up files. Sometimes you can find those files on your computer by searching on your drive and selecting and right clicking the picture and choosing open with, and finding Photoshop that way, especially if you know it's an image file. It will also launch Photoshop for you and open it up. But once you already have Photoshop open, you just File, Open, or just hit Command or Control O. Once it's open, anytime that you create a new layer, so say you've created a new layer in your layer palette, once you've gone over the single background layer and you try to save this file, it's going to give you the option to save it by default as a Photoshop file, the .psd file, which as long as there's layers, you're going to have that choice to choose from. If you choose any other file type, it's going to flatten that image down to a layer, so you have to be careful. So Photoshop .psd is the native file. I highly suggest when you're working with files in Photoshop to always save one layered file, and then you can save copies of that are not layered. For example, if you go to JPEG, you don't want to save over the original layered Photoshop file. Always keep that in case you decide to come back and make changes to it. So once you've created that layered file, you would just leave it at Photoshop and hit save. There's really not much else to do. The maximize compatibility I leave alone and hit OK, and I'm done. Now it's saved as a Photoshop layered file. But if I want to save this as a JPEG, for example, then I would say File, Save As, and choose first where I want to save the file. Decide if I want to keep the name, and then pick the format that I want to save this as. So with Photoshop, you get a ton of different image formats. Most of these you're not going to need to worry about, but some of the more common ones, we already talked about Photoshop. There's also JPEG. I don't use JPEG 2000 or JPEG Stereo, just simply use the JPEG one. That gives you some level of compression, so you're going to get a picture that could lose image quality, but most of the time you can't really tell, and you end up with a small compressed file, so that's good for emailing, etc. You can also save it as a PDF file, which might be an image file you're used to. PNG is another common one that looks really good, but it also preserves transparency in the background. So say you have a floating graphic on a website and you don't want to include any white space in the background, you just want the graphic itself. PNG is a good one because it allows you to preserve transparency on that. And the last would be a TIFF file, which is a more common file for sending it to a printer that doesn't really have any compression quality, loss of quality to that. So I'm going to go ahead and pick JPEG for this tutorial, and then I'm going to hit save, and it's just going to save over. I don't want to save over my original file, so before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and toss that layer first, and then File, Save As, and go back and hit JPEG and hit save. Now when I replace it, it won't add in that extra layer, so I'm going to say yes, OK, and you're going to get the JPEG options box that pops up here. Basically, you don't want to mess with anything except maybe the image options. I always leave my JPEGs at maximum, but if you knew that you wanted to email this or you didn't care about the quality, you could set it to a lower quality and then hit OK. Some of the other options, if you say File, Save As, and say you want to do it as a PNG file for transparency purposes, you can pick PNG, and you'll notice on a Windows-based computer, it's not showing all the different files that were in that folder disappeared because it's saving it with like files. So because I chose PNG, the JPEGs disappeared. Don't worry about that. it will be there. Your pictures didn't get deleted. Your previous saves did not get deleted, so they're still there. So I'm going to save, and this just gives you two options for compression. I always choose none for both of these and hit OK, and it will save it as a PNG file. So that's how you open files and also how you save files in Photoshop CS6.